running for county judge. I'm from Abilene. Some of you may know that I was a county judge in Abilene, Taylor County. No? Did you not know that? Yeah. So I have the scoop on some of the questions that I'm going to ask these guys. And it was truly an honor and privilege when I served as county judge, because it was my home county, and I mean that was what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. Other things happened after that, but I know that you serving and you with a desire to serve would love to serve in Rockwall County, because it's truly an important and honorable job. There are, just a little background, there are 254 counties in Texas. We're the smallest geographic size county in the state, but each one of those has an elected county judge. And the county judge position serves for a term of 4 years, so that's what we're here about. We're gonna vote one of these gentlemen next year for a 4-year term. A common question, do you have to be an attorney to be a county judge? You do not. So what does a county judge do in Texas? Well, depending on the size of the county judge has a wide range of judicial and administrative duties, but the key one is he's the chief elected official of every county. He's a presiding officer of the Commissioner's Court. You heard Jim just announce he wants to run for one of those commissioner seats. So there are 4 commissioners in each county, and the county judge is the presiding judge over that body. He represents the county in many administrative functions. He serves as the budget officer in counties with fewer than 225,000 residents, like Rockwall. Most have broad judicial duties, such as presiding over misdemeanor, criminal, and small civil cases, probate matters, appeals from Justice of Peace Court. I know when I did probate matters, and I was one of 2 juvenile justice judges. So there are a lot of things that these gentlemen can do as county judge. And the county judge serves as the head of the emergency management for the county. The Texas county government is generally an extension of our state government that focuses on several key measures: health and welfare, jail services, law enforcement, records and licenses, roads, and the judicial system. So I just want to give you a little brief background on that. Most of you, I'm sure, already know that, but often you get questions of what exactly is a county judge and what does he or she do. So at this time, I'm going to let each of our candidates here speak up to 10 minutes, and then you don't have to take the whole 10 minutes if you don't want to. And then, I'd like for you to give us your background, qualifications, plans for being our next Rockwall County judge. After that, there's 3 of us who will ask some prepared questions. One other thing, I think there's a piece of paper, or there was, on your seat. If you from the audience have a burning question that you want to ask, write it down. Donna will pick it up at some point, and we'll get those questions asked and answered. My only other thing is, and I meant to say this at the beginning, so I'm really glad that the Hispanic Club is going to participate in Reagan Day the way, what is it, the whiskey and wine deal? With the Hispanic Club. Why not tequila whiskey? You make that motion right now.
I'll run that past the committee.
Okay. So,
tomorrow.
Our first speaker, our current incumbent county judge, Justice David Sweet.
Thank you, sir. First and foremost, thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak tonight, and quite honestly, thank you for the honor and the blessing to be able to serve as the county judge here in Rockwall County. I never take it for granted. I am truly humbled, and quite honestly, I can honestly say this job is by no means a stepping stone for me. I know and I just read our bios just a moment ago, but we were told, well, we had 5 minutes, now we've got 10, so I'll go ahead and emphasize and just reiterate or double down on as far as some of my experience is concerned. I am a Rockwall County property owner and taxpayer. I have been for over 20 years. I am serving my second term as the county judge, having been elected in 2014 and re-elected in 2018. Prior to that, I served 2 terms as the mayor of the City of Rockwall after serving 2 terms on the city council in Rockwall. As mentioned, I am and have been a member of the Board of Directors for the North Central Texas Council of Governments for the last 4 years, and I am currently serving as the president of that organization. Victor mentioned our role, or as a county judge's role, as the emergency management director. With that, I serve as the president of the Rockwall County Emergency Services Corporation. I and my family am members of First Baptist Church of Rockwall. I am proud of to be involved here within the community. Proud of my family's involvement as well. For that matter, I do serve, as mentioned a moment ago, on the board of directors for the Rockwall Area Chamber of Commerce, a member of the Roy City Area Chamber of Commerce. You said a moment ago, board member for those other fine organizations. I got to correct that and say I'm a former board member for the Meals on Wheels of Rockwall County, the YMCA here in Rockwall County, and for the Boys and Girls Club. And yes, absolutely, I do broadcast sporting events for Rockwall ISD. So hopefully you'll tune in this Friday for football and go into, volleyball, then join us on Saturday night for some football. I am a dyed-in-the-wool conservative, fiscal, social, conservative Republican here in Rockwall County. Have been involved through the organizations, having served as secretary, vice president, and president of our Young Republicans here in Rockwall County, and as well as the Rockwall County Republican Men's Club. Heard that I'd served as a 6-time delegate, Rockwall County delegate to the state convention. I also had the honor and the privilege of serving as a chaplain for the Young Republicans on the state level during Rockwall County District Attorney Kendi Culpepper's term as the president, state chair for that organization. Again, serving our community is something I'm extremely passionate about. I believe that I love it. It's a strong desire that I have. I think it comes with the job. I think it's part of the responsibility. Quite honestly, I love celebrating individuals' success, those that contribute here in our community, as well as our fine organizations. It also allows me as an elected official to feel the pulse of our community and what matters to our residents here in the county, and as well as a good insight into what's going on. Rockwall County, as you know, is a tremendous place to live, work, and play. It's an amazing place to live. It's not perfect by any means, but I wouldn't trade this, my opportunity to serve or my opportunity to live in this community with anyone or anywhere. Anybody who lives in Rockwall County, quite simply, also knows it's all about growth. All about growth. We've grown tremendously over the last 10 years. We're growing now, and we've got lots of growth ahead of us. Based on the recently released census data, Rockwall County has grown significantly, about 37% over the last 10 years. We were almost 79,000 folks in 2010. The census data released shows us a little bit less than 108,000 folks that call Rockwall County home. Now keep in mind, that's a snapshot in time when the census was completed. According to the North Central Texas Council of Governments, we've grown 6.9% from 2020 to 2021, and we're roughly about 114,000 folks, 114,000 people call Rockwall County home. At build-out, Rockwall County would be close to 250,000 folks. Think about that for a moment. 250,000 people. Somewhere around that number will call Rockwall County home. What separates us from a lot of other counties throughout the state of Texas and others that are growing, we're nowhere near build-out in any portion of our county. We're growing everywhere. So quite simply, as far as the county judge is concerned, the commissioner's court, as well as other elected officials, we cannot afford to stick our head in the sand. What we do is all about planning and preparing for the future. And I am proud to be part of a commissioner's court that understands the importance of that and does that planning and makes those important and tough decisions. County government in general is quite simply a customer service organization. We're people taking care of people, and our number one asset, your number one asset, is our employees. Those are the folks that are out there doing the job and providing the services for our citizens. I'm extremely proud of our team, and I'm proud to be part of a court that is invested in the training and development of our staff, as well as providing the resources necessary to do the job, provide those services that our citizens, as I said a moment ago, deserve and expect. During my time, we've implemented a performance pay plan with clear job descriptions and expectations for every position, very similar to the ones utilized in the private sector. that I'm sure each and every one of you, or most of you, are quite familiar with. I know during my roles and my during the private sector, very actively involved in preparing and obviously utilizing those as we manage my team. One of the worst things an organization, in my opinion, can do is become a training organization for other competitive entities, public or private. And with the completion of market studies, we have invested significant in salaries in order to minimize turnover. And as a result, our turnover percentage is less than a third of the national average for an organization of our nature. As a court, we've added additional staff in our county clerk's office, our tax assessor's office, our elections office, as well as in human resources. As an extension of county government, as Victor mentioned a moment ago, our largest responsibility and our largest expense, one of our highest priorities, is all things public safety. That's from the jail, the sheriff's office, to our district attorney's office, the district clerk, county clerk's offices, our JPs. I saw one a moment ago. Judge Russo was here, down to the constables. With growth, Rockwall County Commissioners recognize the need for an additional county court of law. We passed a unanimous resolution requesting the addition of a second county court of law that was strongly supported and proposed and introduced, as far as the bill is concerned, by State Representative Justin Holland and State Senator Bob Hall, and unanimously approved during the last legislative session. The court funded that position, and the voters, you made your choice and you elected Judge Stephanie Woodward to join our team as the first judge of the second county court of law. Again, sticking with growth impacts facilities. As a court and working with our sheriff's office, we hired a consultant to conduct a jail needs study. With completion of the study, and that recommendation was presented to the Commissioners Court, and we went to you, the voters of Rockwall County, and you guys approved the $52 million renovation, expansion, replacement of that much needed, undersized and outdated Rockwall County Detention Center, which is on budget and on time and will be completed in the middle of next year. During my time, as far as public safety is concerned, we've invested and purchased a P25 radio system for first responders, not only for the sheriff's deputies on the county level, but for all folks, all first responders throughout the county in public safety, and which has resulted in a significant increase in public safety, as well as a significant savings for all of the taxpayers in Rockwall County. We've added additional staff members, 10 last year and 16 this year, for the new detention center as required by the Texas jail standards outlined by the commission. We've added IT staff, custodians, and maintenance that were needed as a result of that. We've had a commitment to, as I mentioned a moment ago, an additional staff members to our district attorney's office. We've added a captain communications officer, a new deputy to the sheriff's office. And we've all done that, as I'll close in a second, in a physically conservative and responsible manner. Victor mentioned a moment ago, county judge is the emergency management director for the county. The last couple of years, as you can imagine, have been completely trying, but I am thankful for the Commissioner's Court, our emergency management team, Dr. Parrott, our Rockwall County Health Authority, those that served on the COVID task force. Frank News in the room now was one of the members that served and contributed to that group to help us navigate and make decisions that made sense. I'm thankful for Representative Hall and State Senator's support, State Senator Bob Hall's support, and those here in the county that helped us navigate some of the tough decisions that needed to be made. We focused on easily accessible, accurate, reliable, and timely information, all things COVID, by creating the COVID dashboard, a one-stop shop so you could understand and get an idea of what was going on in our county. We made sure that we had adequate levels of personal protective equipment for county staff, first responders, medical professionals. We provided the support, direction that was needed for our senior care facilities and daycares throughout the county. Understand it's one of those politically sensitive issues. However, vaccines were part of the tools that were provided. Some places were granted federal and state assistance. We had to make that decision, or had to provide those services here through partnerships, which I'll get into lately. So I'm thankful for all of those, that we were able to accomplish what we needed to get done. And of course, access to the monoclonal antibodies, the Regeneron, as recommended from Dr. Parrott. We've requested that tent through the Texas Department of Emergency Management. Been able to provide 1,600 infusions, preventing folks from, filling up our hospitals. I'm extremely proud of these, and trust me, I could have gone over a ton of more of things that I'm very proud of that we've been able to accomplish over the last few years. As I said, it's been a tremendous honor and a blessing to serve as a county judge. We've successfully increased and provided services for our county while lowering the tax rate from a little bit less than 40 cents, 0.3959 when I took office, to 0.3131 today. We've received a AA bond rating due to our financial standard practices as well as our consistent fiscal disciplines. And guys, I'll repeat it again for a third time. It has been a tremendous honor and a blessing to serve as your county judge, and I hope that I can earn that opportunity from you, the voters of Rockwall County, again next time. Thank you.
And we're going to reserve questions to the end. So now, Mr. Beaman, and we're not sticklers about time, but he had 11 minutes and 30 seconds, so you have.
Do I have room to stand up here?
If you want to.
Awesome, I would love to. There's a saying in small business, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Let me share with you a little bit of my story. As we mentioned earlier, I was born and raised in southeast Wisconsin. Moved down here about 10 years ago, and ironically, fun little tidbit for you, I was actually homeschooled all the way through high school. Went to Liberty University for college, majored in business economics, graduated with summa cum laude honors, dually enrolled in an MBA program, graduated with the honor of high distinction, and then my COVID project, when we were all shut down, couldn't go anywhere, I was getting a graduate certificate from Yale in strategic digital marketing. Business background professionally, started my career in 2013 as junior analyst working for a family-owned private equity company doing oil research. Fun story, did that for about a year, and I got a phone call from my employer and said, hey, like what you're doing but no more oil research, you're gonna help us sell small landscaping business in 2 years. Ready, set, go. I was like, whoa, this is a little bit of a shift here. We were able to do it in a year and a half. We started in the summer of 2014, sold in December of 2015. We got a 5-star rating on Home Advisor, won their Best of Summer 2015 award, had a lot of fun in it, definitely kind of like the School of Hard Knocks, very unregulated industry, but also very free on the bright side. After that, I went back to work as senior analyst researching further investment opportunities. And as I continued my roles there, I was kind of looking to spread my wings a little bit. I had some great discussions with my employer, and we were like, to tell you what, if you want to spread your wings, it's probably a good time to take a shot. So I was looking around for some opportunities, and it runs in the blood. I come from a small business family, small business background. So it's a very entrepreneurial opportunity to acquire ownership and a franchise. A small little merchant processing company called Merchant Masters. Rolled that out in 2018. Very blessed, have ownership in that still. Currently serve as president of a nonprofit small business consulting firm. Year to date, we've been in existence about 14 months. We've delivered resources to over 1,600 businesses, have over 700 clients, we're in 18 different states, and operate 100% virtually, so our overhead is very, very minimal. A lot of people ask me, crazy time in politics, why the heck do you want to get involved? It's what I know. Both of my grandfathers served in the armed forces. My dad's father served in the Korean War in the Air Force. And my mom's father served in the Navy. He saw active combat in World War II. He was a gunner on a U.S. destroyer, the USS Anthony. Fun little tidbit of history there for you. In the Battle of Okinawa and the Battle of Iwo Jima. And growing up, we were always taught to hold tight to your faith, believe in God, make your own independent decision about salvation. Accepted Christ at a young age. I was 4 years old, old enough to know the difference between right and wrong. Got baptized a couple of years later. I'm currently a member at Lake Point Church here in Rockwall. But progressing back to the political side, my moment was in 2012. I always wanted to give back, get involved, thought I'd have a career, have a family, retire, then maybe start giving back. 2012 was not a good election at all across the country. We had just moved from Wisconsin, a state where the Republican Party was founded, and now it's a Democratic sewer, unfortunately. A lot of fun memories that are growing up, but it's gone. Even this past election cycle, it's horrifying to think what happened. There was definitive voter fraud. And that is a horrifying thought. That's something that we do a good job here in Rockwall County. I want to make sure we continue to monitor that. Back in 2012 and after that election cycle, I just started to volunteer. I was like, I don't care what it is, let me help, let me give back. Started block walking, just volunteer campaigning. Later on, I was asked to serve as a precinct chair. Did that for a couple of years until I moved to a new precinct, in the Rich Krause precinct. You did a fantastic job, by the way, thank you. I was asked to serve on Heath's Board of Adjustment. Was asked to serve as Rockwall's Get Out the Vote chair. A fun little tidbit for you. Even though the last election was ugly nationally, at the Rockwall level, we were rock solid. We had the most Republican votes in our county's history, and we also had the biggest margin of victory by the most votes we've ever had in history. So there are some good things going on here in Rockwall. Again, thank you to the Hispanics Club and all the different Republican clubs here in Rockwall County. In 2017, I was actually asked to run for city council. There was a local political issue about development, and I had two individuals give me a phone call, a former mayor and a sitting city councilman, and said, hey, we want you to run for this. And what's interesting is they are on opposite sides of that equation. I said, hey, you know where I stand on this issue, right? And they were like, we think you're an independent thinker, we think you're level-headed, we want you to pull the trigger. So that's how I started getting into politics. I ran, miraculously, I was unopposed, still campaigned, bought some signs, did all the door knocking, all that fun stuff. And then I won re-election back in 2020, so I've been on city council for 3 years, going on 4, and then last year had the honor of meeting my love of my life, Nicole, get to be married in a week, super pumped about that. And then county judge. How did that come up and why? The Roman philosopher Seneca once said, no wind is favorable if one does not know to which port he is sailing. I want to bring a crystal clear vision to Rockwall County, a vision where we become the premier example of good government, one that proactively defends our constitutional rights, one that truly facilitates and encourages a high quality of life, and one that really and truly advocates and promotes that thriving economy. We can get there. We are going to get there. However, there are a few key things that we need to get done first. I'm going to touch on 3 of them tonight in brief. We're going to talk about the budget, communication, and coordination. One of the things that we've done very well in Heath is using what we call the equivalent rate. What that does, it adjusts the tax rate to compensate for appraisal increases. So you take the pool of property taxes from last year, you put that off to the side and you say, what's the rate to match it? Then you have new growth on top of that. That's the philosophy that I want to bring into Rockwall County. That's the type of philosophy that allows pay-as-you-go system, setting aside money for the future so you take less debt. That's fiscal conservatism. That's what I want to bring to Rockwall County. When you're looking at the budget, you look at revenue, and you also look at expenses. There are a few things we can really clean up there. I'll talk about give you a few examples. I think we all remember the salary debacle that we had a couple of years ago. There's a vote to raise commissioners and judges' salaries by 24% in a single year. Let me give you 2 ways you prevent that from happening. Number 1, you put it up for a public referendum. Put it in the ballot box, let the people decide. Removes all potential conflict. Number 2, let's assume for a minute that there is no choice, that you really do have to raise those salaries. If you're forecasting properly, you see that coming in 2 years in advance. When you see that coming, you identify it and you say, hey, people of Rockwall County, we got a major problem coming up in a couple of years. Here's what's going to happen. Here's what has to happen. But here are the cuts we're going to make to ensure that the net impact of the budget is 0. A little late to the game there, caused a huge blow. It was in the Dallas Morning News. It was not a good situation at all. I can guarantee under my leadership that will never happen, period. I'll give you another one. Currently, our constables are frequently called to back up police and the sheriff's department. However, when they do so in their own personal vehicle. And they're law enforcement as well. We need to be backing them up. So as you start kind of asking around, why aren't they having like an official government vehicle? A lot of times the answer is there's not enough money. We have almost a $40 million budget. We have enough money for 24% salary raises. We need to make that happen. We need to get the job done there. I'll give you one more. I love the idea of the COVID Infusion Center. I think it's a great concept. I think the science is fantastic. Again, however, we botched the process. Let me tell you why. The county donated $360,000 to a private business. The business owner is our government-appointed health authority. So what happens is we have a government-appointed official requesting seed money, which is the role of a bank, not the government, and they decide to grant it in a split vote. Not only do we have a little bit of an ethical dilemma there, but it proved to be a legal one because a little bit later the county had to go back and rescind the money. I'm glad we went to go back and do that. We shouldn't have been in that position, period. We're a $40 million business, roughly. You can't make that kind of mistake going into the future. Talk a little bit about communication. Again, in the context, this is basically a job interview to hire the president of your organization. Every $40 million company has a strategic marketing plan, a communications plan. We don't really have one. We should have clear communications, clear duties, responsibilities, and channels for day-to-day content, semi-regular content, emergency content, so on and so forth. One of the thank you very much, I'll keep it brief. One of the most frequent complaints that we got was inconsistent or inaccurate information. We gotta find a way to fix that. I'll give you one more thing, the coordination that we talked about earlier. If we can take our county coordination with the cities to the next level, we have a golden opportunity. Let me give you one example there. South side of Rockwall, east side of Heath, we're looking at a situation where you're gonna have state mandated 3 fire stations, each one costing anywhere between $2 and $5 million bucks. Not cheap. They're all gonna be within a mile of each other potentially. If we coordinate with the cities and have a countywide fire program, you can have one station with the exact same coverage. What happens is you save on building costs, you save on equipment costs, you save on staffing, and you save on interest. You have the same or better output with less input. That's the private sector efficiency that I want to bring to Rockwall County. Ladies and gentlemen, my fellow patriots, Rockwall County is an extraordinarily blessed community. That's why I moved here. I moved across the country to get here. We are also at an amazing point in our history. We have a golden opportunity to create and sustain a legacy and community for our children's children. The time is now. The future is ours. And the vote for John Beaman is a vote for the future of Rockwall County. Thank you all. God bless.
Thank you both, we really appreciate it. Now we're gonna launch into some questions, and I'll ask the first one. So you mentioned, I think, 3 different priorities, but both of you, what do each of you see as the biggest issue facing Rockwall County in the next 4 years, and how would you address it? I'll let you start.
Thank you, sir. Again, I will emphasize, as I mentioned at the very beginning of my presentation, everything here in Rockwall County is quite simply about growth. I mean, it has been for quite a while. It's ongoing, and we've got to continue to keep that in mind in every aspect of our decisions. As I mentioned at the beginning of, or part of my presentation, we are a customer service organization. We are simply, again, people taking care of people. We've got to ensure that we've got the levels of service for the citizens of Rockwall County, what you guys expect and what you deserve. I do got to take 1 second to go back onto one of those things. All 4 of our county constables do have vehicles that are provided for them. And of course, we've replaced those actually over the last couple of years. But
Okay.
growth is the driver in ensuring that we work with all of our partners on the state level as well as the city level. And again, we're working on the county level to be able to identify the things that we need, that are needed to continue the service, to provide these service expectations for the citizens of our county. Thank you, sir.
Same question, biggest challenge. The judge touched on it, growth is a huge one. I look at it the other way around. It's vision, it's destination. Not all growth is good growth. It's kind of like money. Money is money, it's good or bad. It's how you leverage it that determines whether or not it's good. That's part of the vision. When I quoted the Roman philosopher Seneca, we need to have that end destination point in mind and then work back. You have the vision, you have the mission, the plan on how you get there, the tactics, and then the implementation. That is the most important part in my mind, because at some point, that growth stops. What are we going to be doing when we are capped out? When we hit that 250, 275,000 population, we don't have room to grow? That is the end destination. That's where we're going. So we need to build back from there. What gets us there while protecting our constitutional rights, facilitating a high quality of life, and promoting and advocating for that small business economy.
Hi, gentlemen. Okay, my question is, what is your position on Prop A, the $150 million road bond proposal? Speaking of that growth, and what do you think will be the effect if it does not pass with the vote, as we've seen so many people coming in and out of this county, and the traffic that we've been seeing?
Yeah, let's reverse it there.
I've had a lot of people ask me this question, and yes, we definitely do need to improve our roads. There's no question about that. Here's the dilemma that we run into. We're actually not buying any roads here. We're writing a credit card with an open check, essentially. There's nothing guaranteed in it. If you look at it like a business loan, bringing some of that private sector business into the government here, if you look at it like a loan, if you went to the bank and said, hey, I'd like 150 million bucks to buy some roads, they'd be, all right, where are you gonna put it? Well, we don't really know, we can change, we'll go around there. Okay, well, hold on a minute here, that's a little too vague. We need to know where these roads are going, because there are roads in Heath, for example, that would be absolutely horrible for us. And there are also some roads that would be fantastic. None of this is guaranteed. We need to look at it like a business and get it written up to where we actually know where we are getting. Sadly, the first time the consultant actually approached me was this past Tuesday night, less than a week before early voting starts, and they're asking for $150 million. I don't have enough data to give you an answer on it, yes or no. Yes, we need to improve the roads, but I'm not willing to write a blank $150 million check for it, because there are some roads that are not good for us. Believe it or not, there are some that would be horrible for us. It's, again, specifically in the context of the city of Heath. I absolutely believe we need to improve the transportation system and invest in it. However, with the current bond proposal as is, if you ask, there is no guarantee on where these go. And I'm not comfortable lending out 150 million bucks with no guarantee on it.
Thank you, sir. First of all, let's talk about how that bond was created. 2004, the Rockwall County Commissioners Court had the vision and foresight to work with a consultant to identify and create this transportation plan. They went to the voters and $17 million was approved to participate or use with leverage in working with TxDOT and the North Central Texas Council of Governments Regional Transportation Council to improve transportation and infrastructure in Rockwall County. 2008, the decision was made to go to the voters and ask for $100 million. As a result of utilizing and leveraging those funds in partnership with TxDOT as well as Regional Transportation Council, we've received $1 billion in return on that investment. These projects that are part of this bond proposal were created, they were planned and worked with or identified from as early as July of 2020. There is no surprise on this in terms of the projects that were being identified by each and every one of the cities to be included in this. I do recognize and understand the 32 projects that were identified. There were more that were identified in that. What's done after those projects are identified, you go and you sit down with your other partners, TxDOT, the North Central Texas Council of Government, and they look to see what projects make sense for them to partner with or for them to be able to invest money. And that's quite simply the way that it goes. When we talk about not being able to control when those projects, and that's one of the most frustrating things. It was for me in 04, it was for me in 2008. And again, throughout the process, you wish you could make it better, but being able to say, this project, this time, this way, that's not the way that's going to work. There's so many players, or so many outliers that come into play with determining when those projects are ready to go. You've got to have a local match. That's where that's come from. It's a 10% local match. This is the most efficient and most effective way for us to go about planning for road and transportation improvements throughout Rockwall County. Cities of Fate, cities of Rockwall, city of Roy City, of course, have unanimously endorsed this bond. And I do think it's never easy when we come back to as far as bond. But this is a proven, true, tried and tested process that not only Rockwall County uses, but has been copied and duplicated in many, many other counties throughout all of Texas. So at the end of the day, it's a decision that we're going to take out to the voters, and you get the opportunity to determine whether or not that this is something that we should move forward with, that we should participate in. And that's what is so amazing about this, is you get to be able to decide. And I want to encourage you to do your homework and to make sure make that appropriate decision that you think is right. But in terms of supporting the bond, this is the tool that has worked in the past with 2004, 2008, and it'll work again here. So thank you.
Why should voters support you rather than your opponent?
Here, I'll just go ahead and say, first and foremost, I do want to thank you again for the opportunity to visit with you, and thank you for allowing this. This is early, and I'm glad that it's early as we get an opportunity to come out and have an opportunity to spend time with the voters. To me, very simply, it is no question experience. I have a strong level of experience on many, many levels. I have a good hand throughout the community for my level of involvement, understand where this county has been, I understand where this county is, and I understand where this county is going. We have had, and we will continue to have an active role in shaping this county. And planning has been part of the equation. I again went over a significant amount of those plans just a moment ago. I'll be glad to visit with anybody one-on-one. I had the opportunity to do that with a couple of you over the last couple of weeks. But again, guys, I want to encourage you, take your time to visit with us. But quite honestly, I am the experienced candidate. I am the candidate that does have the experience. I have been doing this job for the last 7 years, as you've had the honor and privilege, as I mentioned, to have been elected by you in 2014 and chosen to continue serving in 2018. So, quite honestly, I believe to directly answer that question, I think it is experience. Thank you.
I'll make one more comment on that road bond real fast, just to keep in the back of your mind. One of the projects that was included in that 2004 bond was a trail down Terry Lane. People still ask to this day, 17 years later, when's that trail coming in? I have to look at him with an honest mind and an honest heart and say, I don't know. That's one of the reasons I have a problem with the bond. Why should voters support me in this election? This is, in essence, a job interview. You are hiring an executive, a chief budget officer, to manage your taxpayer dollars, a $40 million budget. As you go through this interview process, you look at education, you look at public sector experience, and you look at private sector experience. My educational background, humbly speaking, is strong. My private sector experience is equally as strong. I've started a business, I've sold a business, I currently own a business, I currently manage a successful nonprofit. The business experience is there to bring those private sector practices into the county government. The public sector experience is also there, almost 2 full terms, 4 years on Heath City Council. I'm familiar with the political process. I served on a board prior to that. I also serve on the Royce City Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors as Vice Chair. I graduated from Leadership Rockwall in class of 2018. For those of you in the room who know the context, greatest class ever. I have the experience, I have the education, and I have the vision, but most importantly, I have the passion. I came to Texas for a reason. This is the last stand. There is nowhere else to go. It all starts here at the local level. If we want to preserve our republic, if we want to preserve our state, it all starts locally, and that is why I humbly request your support in the 22 election. Thank you all.
I want to ask a follow-up, because part of the Prop A question was, what do you, each of you feel, and I'll ask you to be brief, would be the effect if it doesn't pass? I think you said you're not. Anyway, I just want each of you to address that briefly. I'll let you go ahead and get started. Oh, sorry. Does anyone have questions? If you have questions, write them down and get them to Donna, and we'll go through those.
What happens, and you're referring to the road bond, correct, just for clarification? If the road bond does not pass, we will have to come back later at some point in time. Or the cities and counties can unite once again and issue our own debt. In essence, we're issuing debt here in coordination with the state government. Financially, it's a cool move. You get a lot of bang for your buck. However, again, we sacrifice all control in the process. This can be worked where we get a few of those guarantees. Which roads come? What are the timelines? There are solutions. I don't believe in it's this or nothing routine. Yes, it might delay us, but it's better to get it done right. Once you lay a road, you can't unbuild it. It's there. We've got to build it right. We are coming up on a point in time where we won't be able to look back and reshape our foundation. These road bonds are some of those processes. So yes, it will delay our growth, but it will be marginal. And you fast forward to that end destination in mind, it will be 100% worth it. Because again, as a community, as a government, we're building for the future. We're building for that end destination. We're not just looking at the next 2 years or 5 years. We're looking 30 years, 50 years, 100 years down the road. Our children are going to live here. Our children's children are going to live here. We need to get it right.
Very simply, in essence, we would, it is a tremendous setback. There's no question about that. You're talking about, and John, you mentioned city or county issuing our own debt to be able to build those projects. And a significant amount of these projects, we have 5% of the cost associated locally involved in being able to get these roads done. So to tell you about that, and the growth is not happening tomorrow. The growth is ongoing now. This is the time. This is the planning process. For example, I know out in the city of Royce City, how many subdivisions are along one of the routes of one of those roads that's being proposed? A significant amount of development is proposed and is sitting and waiting, regardless of what our what of our opinion in terms of that property owner's ability to develop. So it would be a significant timeout or a significant setback, significant delay as far as these transportation improvements are concerned. And the frustration that goes on when those that you're working with, when they know what's worked in 2004, what's worked in 2008. Quite honestly, and I'd be glad to, I could go on and on and on about some of the experiences, some of the setbacks that occur on some of the projects that he referenced a moment ago, but it would be quite simply a tremendous setback, and we'd be operating significantly behind if we're not in a position where we can get these projects started. Thank you.
You have some? I reserve the right to not
Yes,
ask
sir.
these if they're kind of silly. So the first one is, what is your opinion on the current development density in the cities within Rockwall County?
This is the beauty of county coordination. Each city has its own jurisdiction, its own sovereignty, so to speak, on how you set it. Remember how I'm always stressing vision, that end destination. In Heath, we have a comprehensive plan that the citizens created. That's our guiding document. In Heath, we determined the voters, the people, 1 unit per developable acre. That's what worked really well for Heath. There is no set development unit per acre that you can really definitively stamp and say it's a one-size-fits-all solution. That's not the way cities develop. Cities are unique, and they're going to set their own standards. However, it all goes back to that end destination, that vision, that grand plan, so to speak, and you work back from there. So, factually, being a Heath City Councilman, for Heath, 1 unit per developable acre worked really well for our vision.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, during my time as the mayor of the city of Rockwall, as well as on the city council, I'll echo kind of what John said there in terms of how important a comprehensive plan is for each and every one of the cities. We are, each and every one of our cities do have those in place. There are development standards. It's not a one stamp, one standard that's in place. Opinions on some of the development that goes on within the cities, but as the county judge, difference between counties and cities is we don't control, we can't zone property out in the unincorporated part of the county. What we do have in place, what we've done is we've just completed our subdivision regulations, restrictions. That standard for development out in the unincorporated part of the county, of course, is an acre and a half. Don't know whether that completely answers the question there, but each one of the cities do have, as far as statute is concerned, they do have that authority to place standards in place that counties don't have.
Okay, I'm gonna try to read this right. Rockwall County has a lot of small ranchette properties of 5 to 25 acres, but getting an ag exemption in Rockwall is nearly impossible. Ranchette owners are being buried in property taxes and will be forced to sell and subdivide, ruining the rural feel. What can this county do to relieve taxes on those property owners and preserve these properties from being developed?
Awesome, thank you, sir. I want to make a quick point here about that subdivision plan. I'm glad we got on top of it, but again, it's after we have a 400 home development. Better late than never, but there's another 400 homes there. In terms of, trying to resolve that property tax issue, I'm going to bring it back full circle again. If you don't have that end destination and vision in mind, you won't be able to work anything. That's why I want to bring that equivalent rate, that here's $100 in taxes paid last year, the goal is $100 in taxes this year, inflation adjusted. That's the plan that I want to do. And yes, growth can help with that. Not any growth. Not all growth is good growth. By harnessing the growth and leveraging it in such a way so that the economy will drive forward, we can generate other revenue sources, or again, knowing the county government, the real main source of taxpayer dollars here is property tax. Part of it is living in a community like ours. We do buy expensive things, and again, I'm referring to our quality of life. We have great parks. We have very high-ranking schools and ISDs. There will be a tax component, but I will pledge to you right now, my budget philosophy is to use that equivalent rate with the goal in mind. If you paid $100 in taxes last year, I want it to be $100 in taxes this year, inflation adjusted. That is the goal.
I want to make sure that question is completely addressed if we can. It may be something that will be a one-off that I'd be glad to visit with somebody on a one-off. What was the question?
About all the counties that, when I moved here, there was a lot of rural areas with cattle, and these people are saying that they're having to pay such high taxes that they're selling off these properties and they're being developed into, and so they're wanting to know, how do you relieve these taxes to these property owners and preserve the properties from that development?
Okay, yeah, I think it would be a one-off, and I'd love whoever that is, to raise your hand now, but I'd love to visit with you afterwards to make sure that I understand the details of in terms of their question is concerned. Because quite simply, we don't want to be in a position of where I don't want someone to be in a position to where they're forced to do something with their property that they don't desire to do or don't feel is with their best interest. Sounds like some sort of a interesting to see in terms of, they mentioned that being an agricultural designated piece of property, so.
Yeah, getting an
I'll
ag
visit,
exemption.
ag exemption on
is
that. I'll be
nearly
glad to visit with
impossible.
whoever that is, visit with me afterwards. We'll see if we can get some answers on your specific question. All right?
This may be the last one, I'm not sure. And I'm gonna morph it a little, I'm gonna change it up a little, but this is from someone who I think lives in Rowlett. As you know, Rowlett, portions of Rowlett are in Rockwall County, not all of it, but, so I'm gonna change the question a little bit and say, how would each of you relate to reach out to citizens of other cities, not Rockwall, in the county? Because in these outlying cities, there are a lot of folks who have a lot of interest in who the county judge is gonna be and in the investment in Rockwall County, et cetera. So generally speaking, how are you gonna reach out to these other cities other than Rockwall in the county? I'll let you start.
Well, thank you very much. I emphasized, and part of my presentation at the very beginning was extensive involvement within the community. I'm going to continue to do that, continue to be able to develop that. That I know where that question came from one of the residents in Rowlett. There are quite a few residents that I talk to at least once a week by phone. In addition to serving on these the chambers of commerce and work with many different organizations to get a feel without into the community. Visited several different homeowners associations and answered questions. Utilize social media to the best of. I think it's a very, very big strength or a big tool that I utilize. It's very effective for me. And I'll continue to do that. I'm also, one other thing that I always try to do is I ensure that I've got a very good relationship, daily working relationship, not only with elected officials and or professional officials on the county level, but also in each and every one of our cities. Whether it's our mayor, it is made up of our mayors, several different city council members, our city managers in each one of the cities, as well as our elected officials and professionals in both of the two school districts. I'm extremely proud of that. And again, emphasizing the idea that that allows me to get a feel or a good solid understanding of what's going on, what issues each and every one of our communities are dealing with. But I'll continue to do that. Again, work to ensure that that we're staying on top of, or that individually that I'm staying on top of issues or concerns that are going on in each and every one of our cities. Thank you.
Oh, this one is right up my alley. So one of the things that we talked about and learned in this graduate course at Yale was something that we call customer journey mapping. In Rockwall County, viewing the voters as a stakeholder, we very much need to go through the customer journey. How do we meet them? How do we reach them where they are? Fun little tidbit for you. We got Heath, Rockwall, Royce City, Fayette. Those are the cities that get all the attention. We mentioned Rowlett here tonight. There are also a few people technically in Wiley and Terrell. So to the judge's point, yes, absolutely working with the city managers, the city council members, so on and so forth. However, also reaching out to the business community, homeowners who are not frequently involved in the process, maybe who aren't even regular voters, in a consistent, sustainable, predictable process. That way it's patternized. Now the people know what to expect. This is part of that marketing and communications plan. We have our continuous outreach to the city leaders, the HOA leaders, the business leaders, and the citizens. Those who regularly vote and those who don't regularly vote. That is how you keep communication and information flowing freely and accurately.
I think this is going to be our last question.
Gentlemen. I got to really. You are now allowed to ask a question of each other.
Oh, wow.
Judge, I'll give you a softball. What's your vision for the county?
Thank you, John. I appreciate that. Yep, you're exactly right. It is a softball. I want us to ensure as we move forward into this county that we eliminate as many surprises as possibly can occur. I cannot tell you how many times that I'm away at conferences or I'm out visiting with county commissioners, county judges, elected officials throughout Rockwall County, throughout the state of Texas, and they talk about their lack of communication, their lack of planning, how frustrated they are of one thing going on in one part of the county. And first question I ask them, if you talk to, what's your relationship with that mayor, that city council member, that property owner? And one of the first answers one of the first responses that really caught me off guard is I had no relationship, and in fact, throughout the conversation with a couple of commissioners that were sitting there, didn't even know who that was. That's that's scary. That's not acceptable. So as far as our vision is concerned, or my vision is concerned, or we're saying Rockwall County, that's kind of answering what your question is that we don't ignore the obvious. We don't ignore the obvious. We've grown. There are a significant amount of improvements or significant levels of improvements in services, infrastructure improvements, et cetera, that the county, that each one of the cities have done. But it's not over. There's growth that's moving forward into the future, and I hope that as long as I'm involved, we'll continue to plan and prepare for that growth so we're not caught off guard moving forward here throughout the county. So.
Now you get that.
I'll get one. I get to
Wait,
ask
she
you.
has that.
All right, I'm going to toss you a softball. Even an easier softball than what you toss there. So tell us the story. We all want to know. Tell us the story. I know you're getting married here. When is this again? A week from Saturday?
A week from Saturday.
All right. So tell us the story. You mentioned the fact of when y'all met, but tell us the story how you met.
This is a fun one. So you're never going to believe it? We met on a dating app. Welcome to the 21st century, right? Met on a dating app, went out for a day at Top Golf, had an absolutely phenomenal time. I knew we had a bond. We sit down, we're getting ready to, we had a little fun at golf. We sat down, we opened the menu, and she goes, chocolate cake. And I'm like, oh, this girl speaks to my soul. So that was the first day. We had a couple of other dates, asked her to be my girlfriend, started dating exclusively. And then we went a whole month without seeing each other. I have a loved one who has a pre-existing condition, so I had to go on quarantine. Talked every day, but obviously it's not the same not being able to see them. And then got together back in January, and we didn't skip a beat. It was just right there where we left off. And so then you start having those serious conversations. Hey, what do you want in life? What do you want out of life? What's your vision? What's your purpose? What do you want in a man? Obviously, what do I want in a woman? And as those things kept falling in line, she's a woman of faith, she's a conservative, strong family values. I outkicked my coverage. And so then the day before her birthday, I proposed to her. Thankfully, she said yes. Tied the knot October 23rd, but very blessed indeed, beyond words.
Okay, so I'd like to thank both Judge Sweet and Councilman John Beaman for being here. We're very honored. And also, I can count David Sweet and John Beaman as friends.